The Bengals are bringing in a high-end athlete following the NFL draft with absolutely no risk attached to him at all. And in this video, I'll explain why it'll be very easy to root for him. Hi again, Bengals fans. John Sheeran of A to Z Sports Cincinnati here, and the Bengals offseason roster is reaching its, let's call it, maximum form. Because on top of 72 contracted players and the 6 players that they drafted in last week's NFL draft, there are about 14 college free agents that are about to sign undrafted free agent deals with the team. Now, quick math tells us that that's 92 total players, and the team is normally allowed to carry just 90 players throughout an offseason, so there's going to be 1 or 2 moves that the Bengals are going to make to get back down to compliance. But one of those undrafted free agents can stay with the team without them having to make a subsequent move. And that is because the Bengals have decided to dip their toes into the NFL's International Player Pathway program to sign none other than Dante Barnett. Now, before we talk a little bit about Barnett and who he is and where he comes from, let's talk a little bit about this program. In a nutshell, the NFL obviously wants to expand internationally, and they want to get as many people from around the world as interested in the game. And one of their efforts is the International Player Pathway program. So every single year, there is a pool of about a dozen or so players who then become eligible to be drafted in that year's NFL draft or to be signed after the draft as an undrafted free agent. And the advantage for one of these teams is if they draft or sign one of these players, then they get a roster exemption, which means they can carry up to 91 players because that one guy from the National Pathway program, he does not count. And if they choose to keep him on the practice squad that season, they get to keep him as a 17th member of a 16-player practice squad. Essentially, there is no risk to signing an IPP player as an undrafted free agent, and that's what the Bengals are doing with Barnett. So who is Dante Barnett? Well, he once was a young teenager from Birmingham, England, who decided he wanted to pursue sports, but he wasn't quite sure what sport that was going to be. He tried rugby, he tried soccer, the classics over there across the pond, but he landed on American football. And there was an NFL academy not too far away from where he grew up in Birmingham, and he spent 3 years there developing his craft and decided that he wanted to pursue college football over here in the States. And he tried to get into notable programs, specifically in Texas, like TCU and SMU, but he didn't quite have the academic progress that he needed to in order to join those teams. So he ended up settling for a Division III school in Pennsylvania called Dickinson College. Now, according to Dickinson's website, he only played there for 1 season in 2022, and he eventually moved back over to England, but he still kept in shape, hoping that an opportunity to play football would come up again. Because football became very important to him. It wasn't too long after he joined the NFL Academy over in England that his father passed away, so he became very attached to just engracing himself within the game. So when he wasn't working on an assembly line at a Jaguar Land Rover plant, he was keeping in shape, he was working out, and he was knocking on as many doors as he possibly could have. And eventually, a door opened up for the IPP. And it's no secret why the NFL chose him as a part of this year's program, because Dante Barnett is a very, very good athlete. He's listed as a defensive tackle and a very undersized one at that. He's only 6'1", about 275 pounds. But man, can he scoot. As part of the IPP, he got to work out at the University of South Florida's Pro Day back in March, and according to Dane Brugler, he was clocked running a 4.69 40-yard dash at that size. So the speed and explosion for a potential developmental pass rushing defensive tackle, that's definitely there for Barnett. Obviously, everything else is a giant unknown. He only has 1 year of playing experience at a Division III school, and that's about it. He didn't play high school ball. He didn't get high-level coaching in college. His pre-draft process was completely different than most other players, but this has been a dream of his for the better part of the last decade, and he pushed himself harder than I would imagine most people in his shoes would have. And the best part about this is Barnett doesn't have to prove that he's one of the 53 best players on the Bengals roster. He doesn't even have to prove if he's one of the 16 players worth a practice squad spot, because again, the Bengals can keep him as number 17. All this really is just a phenomenal story coming to fruition. And yes, there have been past success stories with the NFL's IPP program, the most notable one being Philadelphia Eagles offensive tackle Jordan Mailata. And if you want to go one level deeper, the Bengals didn't sign a pass rushing defensive tackle in free agency, and then they didn't draft a defensive tackle at all in the NFL draft. It's going to be Barnett and 2 other undrafted free agents, and Howard Cross III from Notre Dame and Eric Gregory from Arkansas, who are going to fill out that room in training camp. So there actually is going to be a very small window for Barnett to show what he's got at that position for the Bengals. But in all likelihood, you'll see Barnett on the practice squad by the time the offseason ends, and he'll get even more time to develop his craft. Beyond that, that's just another part of the journey for him. He made it this far, so who am I to count him out?